Your Excellency, Madam President, you honor us with your presence. Mr. Deputy Prime Minister, honorable mayors, dear ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege to welcome you to Athens, particularly those amongst you, friends and colleagues, who traveled from afar. Your presence, and I know that I express the sentiments and the feelings of all the people of the city, is deeply appreciated. And of course, I am genuinely grateful to all our co-organizers, and especially the Combat Antisemitism movement and the Center for Jewish Impact, who have made this summit possible. It is you that spearhead our efforts to safeguard our inclusive democracies against the perils of hate and intolerance. Madam President, allow me to begin with a personal story. All politics, after all, is personal. I am the proud grandson of a Christian Orthodox village priest, high up in the mountains, in a community of a few dozen souls. My grandfather was at the same time the priest, but also a teacher, a judge, a psychologist, and yes, a marriage counselor. The nearest town was a day's ride, and he would spiritually subsist on a library of, all in all, 20 books that he would read again and again under the candlelight. His preferred reads were three: the Bible, the Quran, and the Torah. You see, tolerance, empathy, and respect begin at home. They begin in our communities, they begin in our towns, they begin in our cities, at the grassroots. In these, the role of local authorities is indeed catalytic. Cities are, after all, the closest democratic institutions to the people. We are called to incorporate their feelings and struggles in our daily decision-making. And in doing so, we have a personal and a political responsibility. A personal and political responsibility to protect the weakest and empower the few. In word, and yes, in deed. It is this responsibility that brings us all here. It's this responsibility that brings us all here together. Summits such as these provide a valuable opportunity to share and to learn from each other's experience in building more tolerant and more inclusive cities. After all, we all know that this meeting is not just an act of reflection, but also a generator of transformative action. And it is as timely as it is pertinent. Modernity struggles against the reawakened forms of the world's oldest hatred, fueled by economic uncertainty and kick-started by political turmoil. The engine of evil is picking up the pace. Intolerance poses an imminent threat to a democratic way of life. It has no place in our societies, and we must all work together to isolate and dismantle it. And this is why I am proud to serve the great city of Athens, a city whose political genetics deeply entrench liberal values and virtues, where democracy was, after all, born, where since ancient times, inclusive and reasoned dialogue has been close to our hearts and minds. A city that has maintained meaningful relationships with the Jewish world for thousands and thousands of years, and has, to this day, constituted a safe, open, and free space for all. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in full disclosure, in the previous decade, there were times when Athens resembled the Weimar Republic. Many of you will know. We experienced the biggest economic crisis in the history of recorded economics in peacetime. And this allowed discrimination, hate, and fascism to even enter the Greek parliament. It is sadly true that the neo-Nazi Golden Dawn was born in the Athenian streets. But it is also true that it died in the Athenian courtrooms. Nobody lives. Now, we all know that nobody leaves a crisis unscathed, but we certainly got out with more resilient institutions, with a more robust democracy, and having isolated populists, extremists, and radicals. So make no mistake, this is not the time to rest assured and remain indifferent. Just look at the rest of Europe. Just look at the United States at the moment, where extremism and hate are creeping over several governments. We must stay alert. The threat of intolerance, hate, antisemitism is just an election away. When hardship breeds hate and begins creating others and producing stigma, we must be extra vigilant in clenching our fists together, in enduring and committing to stay open, to stay inclusive, and to stay civil. We owe each other, and especially our people, our best selves. We can, and we must, not allow the politics of fear to overshadow the politics of hope. This is also the essence of interreligious dialogue. We are not here neither as enemies nor as strangers. We are all united. We're all united by threads of history, community, religion, and culture. Threads we want to become bonds, not shackles, for us and for our kids. In the famous words of Nelson Mandela, no one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin, or his background, or his religion. Thank you so very much. Welcome to Athens. Enjoy our city.